Before Tim brings a message this morning, there's a couple of things that I want to share with you. We read through the scriptures and we say that there's no greater goal than for us to love God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength and love our neighbor as ourselves. We fulfill that calling on our life, and it's going to have an impact not only on us, but on the environment of which we are a part. We will, because we are called to something higher and deeper, we'll be men and women of influence. That's why Jesus says, you're the light of the world. You're the salt of the earth. Those were titles of not just commendation, but those were titles that provoked us to action. So think about this now. As a church, one of the ways that we have sought to fulfill this call of God on our life is not just to be involved in trying to build a bigger barn here on our Greenland campus, but we've kind of looked at the landscape, and as God has opened up doors, we saw that God was calling us to build some of these empty barns. So, for instance, today, Pastor Dirk is down in Raymond. We began that campus, and now this is the second service that Pastor Dirk is preaching at. And we are now on the cusp of beginning this new ministry in Kittery Point. So while we're all gathered together, what I'd like to do is just take a few moments and just give you a little bit of an update about where we are in that process. The last we left this, the church in Kittery had been gutted out. And so we brought everything back down to the bare walls so that we could begin on the inside and bring everything up to code compliance, make it usable space so that we can use that for ministry. So as you see up on your screen, that whole sanctuary now is completely gutted. It's a very old building, and one of the good news is that there was no kind of dry rot, no mold, no asbestos, no pests, not even a church mouse, you know? So it's all ready to go. But one of the things that we did notice as a result of doing this demolition on the inside was that probably back in the early 70s, they had done a renovation in the kitchen, and they took out a couple of the supporting beams that held that ceiling up. Now they replaced it, but they didn't replace it sufficiently so that the downstairs beams there had begun to sag, and it needed some real support. So having discovered that, Bethel Stevens is a member here at Bethany Church. She's a structural engineer. She's on a committee along with her husband, Bob, who's also a geotechnical engineer or something crazy like that. Jason Lopez, who's a project manager for a civil engineering company. Tom Aspinwall. There are a guy named Dave Gross. A number of tradespeople that have been involved now in this Kittery project, donating their time and their expertise. Well, Bethel, she diagnosed the problem, she created a plan, she did all of the drawings, and by the middle of next week, that whole problem is going to be eliminated. Now, on the fire side of things, we had produced architectural plans that were code compliant, that were previewed by the local fire authorities. But in Maine, you need state and local approval. And so when these plans went up to the state, in a desire to be cautious and for public safety, even though we were compliant in our plans of how we were going to use the building, the fire marshal decided that we were going to have to sprinkle the building. So that was an expense that we had not anticipated in our budget, but we're going to have to put sprinklers in the building. And it's probably a good thing, just for safety reasons. But with that, the water supply that is being brought into the building needed to be increased. So Jason Lopez, again, who works for a civil engineering company along with Bob, they sat down and they worked with the town, and now they had to cut across the road and bring in a bigger water main that would help to feed the system when we put in our fire suppression system. So all of which are like kind of little, hiccups along the road. But did anybody ever think that any kind of construction process is going to be like easy? I mean, the most dreaded thing is when I go home and my wife says, I think we need a new couch. Because I know it's never just the couch, man. All of a sudden you get the new couch and the rug doesn't look good. And when was the last time we painted? And look at those drapes. They don't even match anymore. So like, man, just the couch is never the couch. All you young guys that are sitting out here, listen to me. Here's a word of wisdom. Don't fall for the new couch thing, all right? Are you taking notes? All right. That's how it works, yep, all right. So it's the same thing with church. But we're gonna be reassessing in the next week or two. We've gotten at least 3 bids on all the projects. People are very, very busy, which is another reason why this whole project has been delayed a little bit. Just trying to get all this information in. So we're going to come back to the congregation with all, a revised budget. I'll give you all those numbers, where everything is going. But let me just end this by just telling you another thing. When we started this campaign to now, the fulfillment on the pledges that people have made has been over 99%. Exactly. Wow. That means that all of you are keeping to your pledges, which then enables us to have the resources that we're going to need to complete this building. Now, we were pretty aggressive, hoping that we would have been able to get in by September, but it looks like we're going to be getting in around Easter of 2018, so early spring, which is not a bad thing because there's a lot of work to do between this time and then. And we made a promise. We said that we would not spend money that we don't have. And whatever projects we are going to get engaged in, the money has to be in the bank. And so with your generosity, it looks like we're going to be really set to just move right along once we pull the trigger on a lot of these projects. A lot of talk about brick and mortar. But here's the real bottom line. It's not really about the brick and mortar. That building, it's a tool. It's a tool that's going to help us to go out and reach a community. And in that community, as in every community, there are going to be marriages, there are going to be young people, there are going to be seniors, there's going to be a whole host of moments that we can engage that community. We're going to have babies being born, loved ones passing away, strife coming on multiple levels. And when the people of God gather together in community, they're able to step into that gap and show something about the love of Jesus. So it's not just about a building, it's about what we could do with that building. Which then leads me to this last point, and that is, while all this construction thing is going on, we're also very busy trying to put together a team. Because when we start that work in Kittery, on day one, it's going to be a fully functioning church. It's going to have children's work. It's going to have opportunities for families to get involved. It's going to have worship. It's going to be fully functioning. We started Raymond with 2 services. We're going to start Kittery Point with 2 services. Chief on that list was a campus pastor. In our job description, let me just read a little bit about what I wrote regarding that position. We said the campus pastor will need to be responsible to lead and shepherd and disciple the congregation that will assemble in Kittery Point. The campus pastor must have a deep biblical understanding, a strong communication skills, and a vibrant personal walk of faith. He will need to demonstrate a love for God's people and a desire to see others come to embrace Jesus. His family life must display a love for God and for the church of Jesus. So we started looking around at resumes. And recently we have come to a decision, and I'm pleased to announce to you today that we found such a pastor. So today I'd like to introduce you to the campus pastor and his family, and that is none other than Tim Carpenter. Amen. Thank you very much. Amen. Tim, I don't know how, you may have had the opportunity to meet Jenny and their son, Hudson, who wants to grab a microphone because he's going to be a preacher. And Stella, who is too cute for words, right? And so we are really pleased that they have, together as a family, really kind of worked through this whole opportunity and are really excited about how God is going to just open these doors. I know we could not have found a finer family, a finer individual to head up this work that God has just flung open the door. So I'm sure you're in agreement. This is a God blessing. Amen. Amen. In the future, we're going to have an opportunity to meet. We're going to do a more formal time where we're going to be able to pray over Tim and his family and just commission this whole work. We already have an idea of how we begin to engage the community there in Maine. You know, we have 147 families from Maine. So even if we get half of them, that church is going to be full on day one, just with our own people, not even the outreach to the community, which is going to be amazing. So pray for them. Tim, you might want to say a word or two, but I'm just going to turn it over to them. Great decision. Good day for Bethany Church. Amen.
Okay, bye. I love you, kiddo. So Hudson's going to preach today. Going to bring the word. Yeah, I guess this has been a long process. We've been in many discussions, literally hours of discussions. What I can tell you is that when Jenny and I became members in 2003 at Bethany, it was right after Bruce came, and we came to that was your Nehemiah series, Ezra and Nehemiah, and he said, we got to build this wall, and we're going to impact people, and I was like, that guy, let's work with him. So 2003, we became members, and we were just dating at that point. We said, if it doesn't work out, we'll just sit on opposite sides of the sanctuary because it's big enough. But it worked out, as you saw, and one commitment we made is that unless God calls us to another place, that this is our family, this is our church. And so in our discussions with various people, and in particular with Bruce, one of the questions that came up was, what's the biggest need of our church family now, and how can we meet that need? And so as we talked, he just encouraged me to say, you have some skills and some gifts that could meet the need of Kittery, and so that's what I wanted to do. So it's an honor, it's a privilege, I'm excited. I'm actually, after second service, hopping on the road and heading out to vacation. So announcement, vacation, come back, and we're going to hit the ground running and jump into this thing even more. And there's been a great team that's been doing a lot of work already. So I'm very excited about that. Let's go to God in prayer, and then we'll look at the scriptures. Let's do that together.